Okay, today we are going to tie up the last part of our notes. We're going to cover sex-linked traits, sex-influenced traits, and other inheritance patterns. Okay, so here we go. Learning target that we're going to hit is number 7. Explain how genes located on the same chromosome tend to be inherited together. Okay, what that is referring to is linkage groups. We're also going to be covering, once again, we're going to be kind of tying up with objectives number 3 and 5. So 3, 5, and 7 is what we're touching on in this section of notes. Okay, so linkage groups. These are genes that are found on the same chromosome. Okay, and those genes that are found on the same chromosome are obviously going to be inherited together. Unless there's been some kind of crossing over, they're going to move together because they're on the same chromosome. Just kind of like if you're in the car with someone, you're going the same place they're going. Okay, the linkage groups, the way that we know that there are these, what genes basically belong on what chromosome, is that they tend to be inherited together, and because they tend to be inherited together, they don't follow the law of independent assortment. So you don't see these nice pretty 9:3 to 3:1 ratios. Okay, so some examples of these traits are some sex-linked traits. Now, a sex-linked trait means that it's on one of the chromosomes that determines gender. Okay, so the sex chromosomes, that's the X and the Y chromosome. Both of them, by the way, look like X's. Okay, and the X and the Y chromosome that, well, when they have their sister chromatid parts. Anyways, X and Y chromosome actually have genes for more stuff than just gender and gender stuff. Okay, and actually the X chromosome codes for, or has genes for lots and lots of stuff. Okay, sex-linked traits are genes that are located on the X or Y chromosome. I just said that. Okay, some examples of some sex-linked traits are hemophilia and red-green color blindness. I know I've already heard in class there are some that have red-green color blindness. Red-green color blindness. If you're looking at this slide, you're not going to be able to tell that this number here is actually 88, not 38, because this section right here is green versus red, so that green is going to, or that red is going to blend in to that gray. Okay, and in this circle here, what number do you see? You should see 74. Okay, if you can't see those, then guess what? If you didn't already know it, you know now you're red-green colorblind. Okay. So, color blindness, I can almost guarantee you that on any standardized tests that you see, when it comes to genetics, they love asking questions about color blindness. So let's talk about it. Okay, red-green color blindness is a recessive trait. When we're writing out sex-linked traits, if you take a look down here at this Punnett square, you'll notice that we're actually writing X's and Y's. Okay, that way we can kind of distinguish, just at first glance, if you see a Punnett square like this, you automatically know, because it's got those X's and those Y's in there, that it is a sex-linked trait. It's just kind of a shortcut, if you will. Okay, red-green color blindness is X-linked. The Y chromosome does not have an allele for red-green color blindness. I'm having a hard time saying that. So if you take a look down here, any offspring from this couple, okay, any offspring that are males are only going to have one allele for this gene, and because mom's a carrier, right, she's heterozygous. Okay, that's why we say she's a carrier, because she's not colorblind. Okay, but she does have one of the alleles for that red-green color blindness. Okay, so any males that this couple have about a 50-50 chance of being color blindness, because they could either get the dominant allele from mom, or they could get the recessive from mom. And since dad's donating a Y chromosome, the Y chromosome doesn't carry another allele for that color blindness. So whatever they get from mom is what they end up with. Okay, so is it possible for a girl to be colorblind? Okay, what if we have here mom, or we could say grandma in this case, or no, let me just say mom. Mom is a heterozygous, okay, for color blindness, which means she's a carrier. Let's do dad has color blindness. Okay, well, we just want to know about girls, so we're not even going to look down here at the second part, because if there's a Y chromosome, it's not going to be a girl, it's going to be a boy. Okay, so I've got my X's in there. This X came from here, and this one from here, this one from here, and this one from here. Okay, now we need to bring the letters down. Okay, so this A here, this one here, means that this girl would not be colorblind. What about this one? We're going to get this A here, and then bring that second A over. This one, however, would be colorblind. So yes, it is possible for girls to be colorblind. It's just not as common with boys, because we have a chance, depending on what allele we get from dad, we have a chance to have the dominant, whereas guys only have negative. Oh dear, I wrote all over this. Okay, I fixed it. So now if a little boy is colorblind, so in other words, little boy color blindness is recessive, so we've got an X with that recessive trait, and the Y doesn't have a trait or an allele for color blindness. Okay, what are the possible phenotypes of mom and dad? Okay, well, where did this Y come from? Did it come from mom? If you said yes, shame on you. Okay, the Y chromosome comes from dad. Okay, there's no allele for that color blindness there. So dad could actually be this, or dad could be this. We don't know, because all that the son got was the Y. Okay, mom on the other hand, we know mom has to be a carrier. So mom could be big A, little a, and then the son could have inherited this X, or mom could actually be colorblind. Right? We just talked about that. Okay, those are the possible phenotypes of mom and dad. Alright, so sex influence traits. These are alleles that are found on autosomal chromosomes. Those are chromosomes 1 through 22. The chromosomes that code for everything, that's not gender. Genes that are influenced by hormones, these are going to be your sex influence genes, or your sex influence traits. Okay, for example, there's male pattern baldness. Man, I'm having problems speaking today. There's male pattern baldness, and this one is really dependent on testosterone. And if there are high levels of testosterone, that bald allele is going to cause baldness. If there are low levels of testosterone, that bald allele isn't really going to do anything. Okay, even though that male pattern baldness is dominant. So even though it's dominant, doesn't necessarily mean that if you have that dominant allele that you're going to go bald. What it means is if you have that dominant allele and you have high levels of testosterone, then you're going to go bald. Okay, now there's different kinds of genes that cause baldness. One interesting fact is that we're finding that environment, the things that you eat, the way that you live, your weight, all that kind of stuff, we're finding more and more that those have a really large impact on the genes that you have. Okay, so there are other inheritance patterns that we see in genetics. There are actually multiple alleles for certain genes. Okay, what does multiple alleles mean? Well, it means when there are more than 2 alleles. So everything we've talked about so far, we've had a dominant and we've had a recessive. Okay, we've had, sometimes incomplete dominance where those traits kind of mix together. We have the codominance when both of those traits are physically present. Well, sometimes some genes have more than one version, or they have more than 2 alleles. Okay, then there's also pleiotropy. Pleiotropy is when one single gene affects many different phenotypes. Okay, and then there's polygenic inheritance patterns. Okay, polygenic is when there are multiple genes that affect one phenotype, so it's kind of the opposite of that pleiotropy. Okay, so here's an example of pleiotropy. Okay, you've got this single gene. Okay, pay attention here. You've got this single gene that is going to code for several different traits. Okay, so one example of this is sickle cells. Okay, really don't need to go too much in depth to it. I just wanted to give you an example. If you'd like to, you can pause it and read this flow chart. It's not going to be held accountable for it, though. What you do need to know is pleiotropy, single cell, many different traits. Okay? See, like here, single gene, okay, is responsible for, look at how many of these possible phenotypes there are. Okay, that's pleiotropy. And then there's polygenic. Polygenic is when you've got multiple genes that affect one specific characteristic. So I'm using my family as an example here. We've got 1, 2, 3 different genes that are responsible for skin color, and I think now we've actually discovered that there's like 16 different genes that are responsible for coding for skin color. So skin color is very complex. Okay, so you can see, I mean, I'm obviously very white and my husband's darker, and then our baby's a nice mix in between. So that's not just a simple 1 or 2 genes, it's multiple genes that determined his skin color. So, cool stuff. Alright, and that's for our next topic. So, that's it. That's the end. Go do something. Go study your notes.